Hi there, my name is Tracy Spears, and this week is a little bit unique for the Shift Out Loud podcast. After the last couple of podcasts, I got emails, more than one, that said, you need to be a guest on your own podcast. And I thought, okay, wait a minute, let me think about that. Is there anybody that I think would be a great person to interview me? There's only one guy that's at the top of that list, and it's my business partner, Wally Schmader. So he is agreeing to step in and be this week's guest host. So I'm going to introduce you now to the guest host of the Shipped Out Loud podcast, Wally Schmader.
Yes, agreeing. Yeah, actually, I've been looking forward to this. And never knew what format it would take, but looking forward to interviewing Tracy for some time. So we're going to shift Tracy out loud today and walk through some questions that I don't actually completely know the answer to. So I'm very interested in someone I've known for whatever, 30 years and worked so closely with for so long in so many different ways. There's some questions I'd like to ask. And Tracy, you don't know these questions. So
I don't.
uh,
I'm nervous.
you're going to be in the same
I,
seat that all of your interviewees are in all the time, right?
I never
Uh,
think about that. Is it nerve wracking? I guess it is nerve wracking to be. Obviously, I'm nervous. So, were you nervous when
yeah.
you were in the podcast?
Well, just you don't really know, right? Anytime you do a podcast, you don't know what they're going to ask, and some are much better than others at framing questions or having it be stuff you want to share, right? Like you've been on, I'm sure you've been on podcasts I have where they don't ask you any questions that help you share the things you hope to share with a bunch of other stuff. So
Right.
hopefully that won't be the case today. So you ready? Let's get
I'm
started.
all right. I'm ready.
All right. So question number one is, you are supernaturally motivated. You are one of the most motivated people I've ever met, and certainly the most motivated person I've ever worked with. And so I'm just curious to share with me and the audience, like what lit your fuse? What happened, or what experience did you have early on that lit this motivational fuse for you in such a way that it's never even dimmed, much less go out all these years? So what's the story?
Oh my gosh, that's a really good question. I thank you for the compliment and comment. Um, Listen, I it's got to go back to being living in a trailer park, and I'll tell you the first thing that came to mind when you asked the question is the story. You've heard it before, but I'll tell the audience. I'm in third grade, as I am every story that I tell. If I'm under 12, so I'm in the third grade, and I go home. I grew up in a 14 by 70 trailer, and I know it was a big trailer. Not gonna lie, and
14 by 70, fancy.
I know, right? We were, yeah. Listen, it was one of the nicer ones for sure. And I could tell you about that trailer, so many funny stories about that trailer, but the story I'm gonna tell you now is it's career day, and my parents are sitting, in the living room, and I have to decide what I wanna be when I grow up, and, as we do to 8 and 9-year-olds, and, my dad very plainly says, "Wally, listen, I don't know what you're gonna be, but if you're ever gonna go to college, it's gonna be on a softball scholarship." He didn't say academic or basketball
Yeah, no,
or
of course
anything.
not.
Just like and I was like, "Oh, okay." And then he says, "And I don't think you're the most talented player on the team." So I was like, "Oh my god." So this is
Thanks,
my
Dad.
only way out, and I'm not that good. But the next thing he said was it, and he said, "But you can outwork anybody." And I remember sitting there being filled with hope at the thought that I could outwork anyone. So I think that's a piece of it. That is, I'm not afraid of hard work, and I think that kind of story is always there. I also think there's something when you are raised in that kind of an environment, and you can attest to this, that you always feel like you have something to prove too. So
Sure.
yeah, I think
So
that's
what is it? So, but there's undisputably you've made it, whatever that means.
yeah,
So what is it? How is it still? What are you proving now?
yeah. Thank you. You know, I feel like I'm only operating on like 10% of my potential. I feel like there's so much more. And for me, so much more is, I want everybody to play bigger, as everybody that's listening in knows that. Every time I interview a guest or whatever, like, what are those moments? I feel this big connection to being a conduit, to being a messenger. When I'm standing in the wings before I go on stage, I'm always talking about, you're the messenger. Like, it's not about me, it is about the message. And I love the thought that I could say something and somebody would go do something afterwards because of what was said. And, I have all written up on my board, just this idea that we have to tell our story to inspire other people to tell theirs. And so that keeps me going. I don't know. That could make me emotional. But I think even in the work that you and I are doing, we're influencing a global community for sure, but yet not even the tip of the iceberg. Don't you feel that way?
Definitely. Yeah, but I definitely am not as motivated as you are to see the potential of that. Like I really am, I'm more focused on today and these connections I can make today. You're much more macro on that, which I think works in our partnership for
For sure.
sure.
For sure.
So for someone who's shifted out loud and quietly as often as you have through your career, both kinds of shifts, right?
Yes.
The one shift you've never made, which is will be surprising to everybody listening, is you've been all over the world. You've spoken all over the world. We've been a million places together. All these things have happened, right? The big things that happen in people's lives, and there you sit in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the same place that 11 by 17 trailer was. What? How do you how do you explain that?
That's so funny. I know like when I'm introduced, that's usually what the question's asked. Really? Why still Tulsa, Oklahoma? That is a really great question. I'll give you a quick answer. I don't like change a lot. That is I love the community. I love going to the same places. I do like the familiarity of that kind of home base. And
Yeah.
for me, I need a really strong home base. I love going all over the world and all the things. That's the short answer. The longer answer is I can leave my house and be sitting at my desk at my office in 3 minutes. I can
Okay.
leave my house and be at the gate of my airplane in about 18 total minutes. I'm not lying. It's a
Right.
10-minute drive, a
Yeah.
6-minute walk in, and then you get through security. So the ease of that. And I think we're this sleepy little community in Tulsa, Oklahoma that people have not been paying attention to. And yet I think people are starting to pay attention. The people, that's the answer. The people that are here.
Yeah.
And I just love the community. So that's
Okay.
a
I love the
that's
community there too. Yeah. No knock on Tulsa at all. It's
yeah.
just with somebody who is as comfortable with big changes as you've made yourself. That's I'm sure surprising to everybody that's listening. That hold it, this lady's lived the same place her whole life. How weird is that?
Well, what's funny is like even walking in here, I want everything to be the same. But you're right. Like I have a high tolerance for risk outside of I just have to have something
Oh
that's solid, right?
no, when I think about you and our and how what we're similar in, there's a thousand things, but the thing we're different in for sure is like you're still thinking about what restaurant you want to go to when the menus show up. You
That's right.
know, like it's crazy. I've seen you look for parking spots longer than we're going to be at the thing we're parking for, like that kind of stuff. The
Yeah.
keeping things in flux thing is a Tracy special for sure. So
Oh my
staying on
gosh.
that,
That is so
yeah.
true. Let me ask you a question about that. So that's got to be maddening for you as my
Oh,
business.
the worst. Yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah,
don't know how to land the plane sometimes. And
yeah. Well, sometimes it's great because some you're willing to say, "Is this the best we can do?" Or is there a way to broaden this? Or you keep it in flux because I'm all about shutting the box and putting the bow on it and going on to the next box.
yeah.
It wouldn't work if both of us were either of those ways, right? So it's good that it's this way. So let's stay on the same through line there on shifts that are known and unknown. What would be other than that you lived in Tulsa for all of your 50 something years? What would be another thing that people would maybe be surprised to hear about you?
Mm. Well, probably that I'm super sensitive. I don't know. Maybe some people would get that. I don't think I present as that, but I'm probably way more sensitive and you won't even know it's happening. Like,
Sensitive in that, in getting your feelings hurt or sensitive to other people and situations or both or
yes.
okay. That stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I will observe things and have big feelings about it. And unless I feel super safe, you see my big feelings faster than anybody I know other than my wife. Maybe even faster than her though. But like I'm very reticent to because that emotional door is once I go in it, it's so out of control that I try to not open that door. And so I think that's a big surprise, just how I care deeply and yeah, yeah, like most people would think it's Rosemary. Like she's sensitive, but, like, not even on the same wavelength as I am. She's like, "Why are you
Yeah.
worried about that?" I'm like, "I don't know. It has to be the perfect present for somebody.
Yeah.
Think deeply about, how do I should I send a thank you card? Should I not?" I just,
Yeah.
I do overthink a lot of those things. So,
Yeah. That's true. I mean, but you can see the results of that not being just okay with everything. And
yeah.
I've seen you over our years of maturing together realize how much of this is Tracy management versus other people management. And I'm in the same boat there. Like, hold it, I can have better outcomes by working on my stuff as much as I can working on their stuff. And it,
Well,
big
listen,
lesson, right?
I can think of the times I've lit myself on fire in front of people, and that never ends well, right? Like,
Yeah.
I have ruined my own credibility
Oh,
many times. I
yeah.
remember
This is so important. I'm going to sacrifice myself. Yeah. Right.
I'll tell you 2 just very quick ones. I did one with Steve Richards one time. He was not giving he cut out the awards section of one of the meetings, and so 3 of my people were not gonna get to walk up on stage and get an award, and I literally behind I lit myself on fire in front of a guy who's the CEO of our company, and I
Right.
was like, "You have to do it," I look back now, the fact that he didn't, A, fire me, and B, that I still hear from him every year at Christmas, but that he didn't. I mean, he was I could tell he was flustered and upset. He gave in, but I knew he didn't want to, and after that, I felt so shameful. So, again, the sensitive
Yeah.
piece, I was like,
Sure.
"That was not a good career move." So,
Right. Well, and there's a little credibility leak there. And sometimes we can manipulate someone with emotion and then realize what we did later. I've
yeah.
done that for sure and realized I hadn't done. So, uh, yeah, you're still mad at me for an award I didn't give you 100 years ago. So I know
Suck.
you're sensitive to that
You
kind of stuff.
suck. You should have given me that award. Like, the guy that you chose over me, literally, I still can't
It was political.
if you
I'm
had to
trying to
do an
think of
award,
something I've apologized for more than that. Nothing have I ever apologized for.
well, like, in the rear view now, you feel like I should have gotten that award though, right?
You should have gotten all the awards. Even the few awards that I got, you should have gotten those.
So that's
Yeah.
the other answer. I was gonna tell you 2 answers, is that I'm probably as competitive as they get, and I think maybe people do know that, but, like, I
Yeah.
will
People
lose
know
friends over ping pong, like,
that.
you know,
You're
you're the
competitive.
same.
I saw you get in a heated argument over who was the most patient, forgetting all irony in the room, right? And go hard for a
Yeah,
couple of hours. Yeah.
I'm
That's a
s
tough argument to have. Who's more patient? Yeah.
that's very funny. Yeah,
It
that is
was funny. So, okay. So let's stick with that sort of the rear word facing stuff. So if you were given a mulligan or let's say a redo or a reshift, if you will, from something in your past, a chapter or a moment or a decision, what would you take a redo on?
the list is long. Should I just start going through it? Is the question like a period in time or an actual decision?
I would think I would think of a decision that led to a period in time. Like had I gone left instead of right in this moment, in this year, let's say, with this decision in front of me, we talk about that, right? Decision points and they put you on different tracks and they change your future options, right? And I can think of a few in my life for sure. But that kind of stuff, like, okay, if I would have gone right instead of left right here, maybe things would have gone better or faster or what that kind of stuff.
I got you. So I'll give you just a couple of things that came to mind. Like there's a piece of me that wishes I would have gone into being a softball coach, a collegiate softball coach, so that
Okay.
I had an opportunity to do that. And
Hey, you were coaching, right?
yes, I had a job offer is at the University of Las Vegas, and I didn't take it because it was at the time you made like $4,000 a year, to be an assistant softball coach. But yet I look at that and I still wonder, what would have happened, in that. That's one. Another one is I was offered a couple of jobs during, my stint at that job for 29 years at TSI that I just didn't even listen to because I was so blindly loyal to the company. And when I look back now and think, "Oh my gosh, I was being loyal to a company without regard to what's in my best interest." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't have the confidence, Wally, and you know this, that what I knew could survive outside of the ecosystem that I was working in.
Right.
I was convinced in some level. that I was only going to be valued at for
Right.
this company. And when somebody approached me to take an equity ownership in another company, I was so offended by it. Like, oh, I can't believe you would even ask me. And I do look back on that now. The guy wasn't the right guy that asked me, but it was the right question, and his reasoning was the right. So that
Yeah.
I didn't go do an equity ownership sooner in another
Okay.
company.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
So
those are.
that's one of the reasons why people of everybody, not just Tracy, but avoids the kind of shifts that you talk about on your podcast is this psychologists call it the loyalty bind, right? That you're bound up in loyalty, misplaced or not. Even if the other party, in this case, an organization that had been changed ownership 5 times, wasn't going to be nearly as loyal to you as we know. What are some other things you think keep people from or keep have kept you from that kind of thinking or that kind of decision making?
Oh gosh, it is why I love the idea of playing bigger. To me, that shift out loud piece and the playing bigger piece is to think beyond the probabilities of what you probably think are going to happen and to get into the possibilities of what could happen. I think that people spend way too much time, uh, you know, acclimating to what is instead of creating what could be.
Right.
And I think that's a muscle. I think, you've been a great example for me as a business partner very early on in my career to, the goal setting piece that I learned as an athlete, which certainly has served me well. And, marry that with the big, thinking bigger and thinking of the possibilities of your life. We used to do all of this training for people that were full commission salespeople, and our job was to convince them that they could have anything they wanted and all those things. And man, that really influenced me a lot as we're standing there trying to motivate other people. It really did motivate me. And I don't
Yeah.
know how people get that if they're in a job that there's not somebody standing on stage or on a call every week saying, you can do better and you can play bigger. And yet I think that
Yeah.
that's where a lot of people are. They're not being inspired. What do you
Yeah.
think?
I don't know. That's I was writing down, but just thoughts I was having while you were talking about. I think on the decision making thing, and we've researched this for you listeners that most decision regret comes from unmade decisions. It doesn't come from the wrong decision. It comes from just not doing anything. Right? Just the gravity of the status quo becomes so much like it was for us that it feels impossible to make a different kind of decision. So I know that there's more um, that kind of stuff. And goals can help pull you out of that, right? Goals, there's a ton of science behind this. We'll have to have another conversation about this someday, but a ton of science behind goal setting, especially written goals, especially goals that you put together with somebody else. There's so much that comes out of it. Even if you sat there and wrote down some goal, took the paper and threw it away,
Yeah.
still something happened there
Yep.
that does something, plant a seed. Everybody's got a story like that. Yeah, I wrote down something. Fast forward 11 years, that thing happened, and they don't draw that line. So that maybe that part of that happened because I was willing to have that thought and plant that seed, whatever you want to say. Now there's so much in there. And how can you go to answer your question? I don't know what people don't know, but I know, like we've joked about, I can tell you the capital of all the states. I can diagram a sentence for you.
Yeah.
I know how to find the square root of something. Um, but I never learned how to set goals in school.
Yeah.
Really? That's what we're focused on? So you can go to elementary school where they should teach goal setting, right? Middle school, high school, college, postgraduate degrees, and never learn how to set goals, right? It's insane that somehow missed. Yeah, I get all excited about it, but yeah,
Listen.
it's I
Yeah,
didn't.
no, I'm with you. And like the vision boarding, you said something happens when you write that down. I'm a
Yeah,
big fan of that. I don't know if you remember when that movie What the Bleep came out. Do you remember that? Did you ever watched it or did you?
yeah. No, I watched it.
Okay. So I remember buying 50 VHS tapes. I was so moved by it. I don't know if you were one of the 50 people in the company that got one, but I'm like during our sales meetings, we watched it. I walked out of that room, or out of that theater, actually, I think it was Michael Maloney in Denver, shout out to him. He calls me and says, "There's this movie," and he knew that it was playing in Tulsa, "You've gotta go see it." I go to see the movie, and I go by myself, literally, he's like, "No, you have to go today." It's just starting at 4:30, and it was just like the right, and I go, "Okay," so I go. I leave the theater, and I'm telling you, Wally, I was never the same person after that. I didn't even know what I was watching. I was shaken at even as a good goal setter, how differently I needed to be moving about the world. I went back the next day and watched that movie again. And I now look back on it and go, okay, that was kind of interesting. And there's a lot of controversy about the movie, but the idea that, what you think about, you bring about is the same
Yeah.
thing that, in so many different forms.
Yeah.
And I think that people don't take the time to be more intentional about what they want. I spend so much
Yeah.
time, like right now on my board, I've already got, I've got so much stuff up here that would blow
Yeah.
even your mind for what I'm going to start to really focus on in the new year. And
Nice.
yeah, yeah,
I watched so on that how people get that seed planted of goal setting, what everyone calls visioning, imagining your future. I had to hear it from someone like Earl Nightingale. I needed a way more credible person than all those quacks that were on What the Bleep,
yeah,
my opinion.
yeah.
Um, and so all the quacks are on there doing their thing and yelling and screaming and all this stuff. And so that one didn't land on me. But when Earl Nightingale said, "You become what you think about," the whole world stopped. Like I only needed those few words, right? Like
Yeah.
that was it. And as soon as I realized that, and I've seen that, what I like about that is it explains a lot of success. It explains a lot of despair, right? It explains the disparity between people that do and don't feel like they control their life. Like there's so much, it's a deep well, right? That conversation. But who tells you the thing and are they credible with you seems to have so much to do with your ability to accept it. Don't you think?
I do, because they are definitely not quacks in my book, and I don't care that they are in yours. The
No, I'm
message.
telling you, that's how I experienced it. Like I've listened to
Okay.
these people. Yeah. It's like Earl Nightingale told me this years ago, and he was way more credible than,
I got you.
that's the Wally version of that movie, which
I
I
got
know
you.
is not, there are tons of experts. I mean, Marianne Williamson was in that movie, right? Like there's amazing people in that movie. Yeah.
I listened to all of it. Like this is true. This is one of your, maybe one of your complaints. Everybody has a lot of credibility for me. Like I'm like, okay, I can learn from every single person. And then only in the rear view do I go, that was probably something I didn't need to learn. But I am so open. I
No,
do
I think that's
to,
one of your strengths. You are highly influenceable and it explains almost all of your success, I think, and maybe some of your regrets that too influenceable in some moments. Everybody, right? That's not a Tracy thing, but yeah, and I'm not, I've got a 7 layer filter that it takes to get in and make a difference with me. We got to go through some vetting, right? And that's probably the worst part of me. So, but back to the interview. Nice job taking us off track. The
that's a
interview.
good rabbit hole to run down for sure.
Yeah. Yes, it is. So let's talk about, so I know you can go wide. I know you've got the ability to take a conversation wherever it needs to go. I know you can figure out a way to knit in these consistent messages that you want your audience to hear into whatever conversation's in. It's a gift. So that's no. Let's talk about going deep on yourself though, and things about Tracy. So, and I'm going to take you through one of our coaching frameworks that I don't know if you've ever had done to you, but I know you've done it to other people. So
Okay.
the framework is we're fast forwarding this early 50s version of Tracy that I'm looking at on the screen right now to an 80-year-old Tracy. And I want you to tell me about her. I want you to tell me what she's like, how she lives, what she cares about. And then I've got one more question to follow up there. Tell me about 80-year-old Tracy Spears.
My gosh. That is so funny. You really prepared for this
Oh,
podcast.
yeah. Yeah, this is my shot.
I thought this is okay. This is good. All right. Well, let's see. She is in incredibly good shape. I can tell you that. Uh,
Okay.
she, she's definitely still working for sure. She's on stages, still trying to help influence people, still cheering people on in some way. I don't think she's running any marathons, nor is the 50-ish year old
Yeah.
woman either. But she's pretty excited about how big her life is still.
Okay. I know where she lives. You don't have to tell the audience that.
She lives in a couple of places. She's got a house in Telluride. I'll just read off the screen up there.
Okay.
She probably has a house back in Cashers, North Carolina. Again,
Nice.
I don't know. She might have a little villa somewhere. I don't know. Maybe in Illinois.
Wow.
Yes,
Okay.
she's living large.
I like her. I'm looking forward to meeting her.
Yeah,
I'll be an 82-year-old Wally at that time, hopefully kicking as hard as you are.
yeah.
So the follow up then is so that we know this Tracy, she's living this big life and she's living in different places. She's still extending her outreach, right? Carrying the messages she wants to carry to the people she wants to carry them to. What does she have to say to this Tracy? Like, what does that 80-year-old Tracy have to offer in the way of advice or insight or wisdom to the Tracy here that I'm looking at?
That's interesting. Yes, and I have done this, and I've never done it as the person being asked. Um, she's probably looking at what she's probably looks back at what's happening right now and is saying, um, take a few days, take a little more time off for sure. Uh, the decisions that feel so big aren't as big as I think they are. So I think she's thinking more contextualized. Uh, the things that I don't know that I have a really great ability right now. The discernment piece escapes me a bit at times. Like this feels like a 10, but it might be a 2. I don't know. So I think she knows that. I think she's able to say, spend a little bit more time thinking about where you want to spend your energy. I think
Okay.
she's definitely uh, looking back saying you cost yourself a few years going down that path and probably couldn't didn't need to, right? I also think she probably you say this to me often. She's probably saying that uh I am too critical of, my faults in some way. Like I don't have anything to prove. Like I feel like I do. Yeah, yeah. I feel like I'm still hot in the trailer for sure.
Yeah. Well,
I
that's a lot of our stories, right? And it's really hard for people to see themselves the way other people see them, right? That's me and you and the whole audience. That's whoever listens to this or watches it. Yeah, but that's a lot of clarity. I think you're right. I think she's really smart. That 80-year-old version, and maybe slow down. This is prime time, right? You can't argue with that. You're in prime time. These middle innings, going back to your softball coaching, what I understood was fourth, fifth, sixth inning. You better get it done, right?
I
Or you're
feel
not going to win. So yeah,
I do feel that somebody asked me this the other day. Where do you think you are in your body of work? And I didn't understand the question, but I answered it. I said, "Well, I feel like right now is the prime. I am the next 10 years. I think you and I like all the groundwork that we've laid. Just watching so many amazing things come in, and yet
yeah.
I feel like the best is yet to come for
Yeah,
sure."
I just had that conversation with my wife, Rhonda, who you know so well, and that I'm definitely in the most creative phase of my life. I've got a surplus of things I can do and ideas that I think might work, that kind of stuff, which is a great feeling. More of those than I have time to do, which is really because I've had the opposite, right? So this one's better. So last question. You ready for the last question?
Sure.
Or how are we on time?
We're
I don't know
good.
how long.
Listen, there's doesn't matter. Whatever.
Okay. All right. So last question is, do you feel like you really understand and appreciate how much I appreciate you and our partnership? Do you think you get that? Or do you think about it?
That is so nice. Thank you. Um, I don't think about it till you just asked me, and it makes me emotional because uh, that's important to me that uh, you have been the fuel for me in so many different points in my life. And if you were not there and I was not trying to help us, I don't know that I would have had the same motivation. So I appreciate you saying that. Uh, uh, yes and no, we'll just say that. And
Okay.
likewise.
Yeah. Well, I don't get to be me if there's no you. And you push me in all the right and wrong ways. Uh, so yeah, I appreciate our partnership and you, just you being you. And I hope you just keep leaning into whatever being Tracy means to you. And I'll hold on as tight as I can as we go along.
Listen,
Is that fair?
I don't, yes. And I don't even think people understand how hard it is to be you. So I'm going to turn the tables. I'm going to tell a couple of quick stories, but I mean, I do get on stage and all the material you prepare and all the blood, sweat, and tears that happens in the room that you're sitting in. And you do experience it because you get on stage too. But like I get all these accolades, even people will, you know, credit me with our books instead of me and you.
Oh
Like
yeah, I know.
you're so selfless in that. And I don't know. I do marvel at how selfless you are in the partnership, and I'm super grateful for that. And people that do use our materials and know us know that it is a true partnership. But there's
Yeah.
all they can never even know Wally Schmader's name, but should.
Right.
So,
No, well, that's important that we're running on different fuel, right? We've said that so many different ways over the years, and mine is not yours, and yours is not mine, and that's but they'll make it work, I think.
I want to tell the audience that one of the shifts, I don't know if I've ever told this, and maybe we talked about it in the podcast with you. If we did, I'm sorry, but I'll say it again. But a shift that was monumental, there's been a couple of them with you that maybe misses the radar. And it was the shift when I came out to you like for the first time and told you that I had a girlfriend and not a boyfriend and all this stuff. Not that you were shocked or surprised. Obviously, I know you weren't, but that I was explaining to you that there was somebody in the organization that was not was not inviting me to their meetings anymore. And I wasn't telling you it was, but your comment to me, you said, "Who are they? So I'll never like them again," or something. And I don't know, it just hit me in a way. I was like, "Oh my God, he's an ally, he's an advocate." And it took me 25 years or 20 years to actually, well, probably what, 20, 22 years. Is that fair to say? To
To
even,
come out?
yeah, to you, yeah.
Oh, oh, I don't think of it as being that long. Maybe just because it was known. Well, and you were sort of, trying to navigate a corporate organization with, a lot of conservative people in it, like any organization. Um, yeah, hyper, like for some reason, that organization was more friendly to very sort of extreme religious views than it was to lifestyle choices, right? Everyday lifestyle choices. So it was an interesting place to be. A lot of places were that place, I think, in the 90s, right? Don't you think?
I do, like, what do you think? There were 1,000, 1,500 people? I don't know how many people in the guy, like, I don't
Right.
I never met another gay person. I
And
swear to
yet, I mean, statistically, there were 100, right?
God. It's I was like, I mean, but I know it was such an interesting environment, but
Well,
that
I
shift.
liked it because I got to make, like, the go-to easy jokes, right? I grew up with a gay brother, and so it was really safe to make all kinds of fun gay jokes, and, as a straight guy, it's hard to get away with that, so we were able to do it in our partnership. You'd say that, "What'd you do over the weekend?" You remember all these jokes that we had, and I loved it because it was a safe space, and it allowed you to normalize what is a normal lifestyle, what is a normal kind of sexuality, right? So it's like, yeah, so I got some benefit there too.
Well, even in our business now, in the leader lab, there are times I remember when the George Floyd murder, I'm just all of the big moments and me coming to you and, I've got big opinions on social media and all that. And you're like, good, do it. Like you've just always been a
Oh, yeah.
cheerleader for, whatever that is. There's never been this, what's everybody going to think? It's like, this is who we are. These are our core values. And we always lead with those. So
No.
it's been
Well, I'm
nice.
with you. We're a force for good, and I wouldn't be interested in the partnership if we weren't. So that's lay the dollars aside. Let's talk about what matters in the work that you do, right? So yeah, I'm with you.
Oh my gosh. It's so weird to be on this side of it, but thank you for being so prepared.
Yeah, well, prepared. I have 5 questions, but they were good questions, and you did a really good job answering them. Thanks for turning the tables today and letting me be the one that got to ask. I
It's
appreciate it.
I appreciate you. I really appreciate you. Thanks, Wally.